I never imagined that a simple act of kindness would completely change my life. My name is Keisha Johnson. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a waitress at Bella Vista, one of the most exclusive restaurants in Miami Beach. Well, I used to work there. Because after what happened that Thursday night, everything changed. For those of you watching, if you've ever been humiliated at work, leave a like so I know I'm not alone in this. It was a typical October evening. The place was busy, and tips were coming in well. I need those tips. I'm a single mother of 2 young children, Maya, who's 6, and Jaden, who's 4. And every dollar makes a difference to pay the $1,200 rent for our small apartment in Hialeah. During the day, I study nursing at Miami-Dade College, dreaming of giving my babies a better life. Around 8:30 p.m., I saw an elderly lady entering the restaurant. She appeared to be about 70 years old, gray hair pulled back in a simple bun, wearing a somewhat faded beige wool coat and carrying a very worn brown leather purse. Her clothes were clean but clearly not designer brands. She walked slowly, with some difficulty, leaning on a wooden cane. That's when everything started to go wrong. Richard Blackwood, our 45-year-old maitre d', intercepted the lady before she could sit down. Richard had always been an arrogant man, with his $3,000 Armani suit and his attitude of superiority that disgusted me. He looked the lady up and down with an expression of disgust. "Excuse me, ma'am," Richard said with that condescending tone I knew well. "This establishment has a specific dress code." "Perhaps you've confused the address." The lady looked at him confused. "I'm sorry, but I would just like to have dinner. I heard the food here is excellent." "Excellent for those who can afford it," Richard replied, crossing his arms. "Our main course costs $85. I'm sure there are options more suitable to your budget in other parts of the city." I felt my blood boil. I was serving a nearby table when I heard this conversation. Other customers started looking and whispering. A blonde woman in her 50s, covered in jewelry, commented loud enough for everyone to hear. "My God, how did she get past security? This place is losing its standards." Her companion, an older man in an expensive suit, laughed. "She's probably looking for a public restroom or wanting to ask for money. These homeless people are getting bolder and bolder." The lady heard everything. I saw her cheeks flush with shame, but she maintained her dignity. "I have money to pay," she said quietly. "I just wanted a quiet place to have dinner." That's when I couldn't stay quiet anymore. "Richard," I said, approaching them, "how about I take care of this table? I have a free table in my section." Richard shot me a deadly look. "Keisha, go back to your tables. I'm handling a situation here." "What situation?" I asked, looking directly into his eyes. "A customer who wants to have dinner?" The tension in the air was palpable. Richard lowered his voice but maintained that threatening tone. "Keisha, you've been working here for 2 years. You should know that our establishment has a certain standard of clientele." "The standard I know," I replied firmly, "is treating all customers with respect." Completely ignoring Richard, I turned to the lady with my best smile. "Ma'am, please come with me. I have a beautiful table with an ocean view." Her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. "Thank you, dear. You're very kind." As I led her to the table, I heard Richard muttering to the manager something about undisciplined employees and establishment standards. But I didn't care. That lady deserved to be treated with dignity. The table I chose for her was near the window, with a beautiful view of the ocean under the city lights. I lit the table candle and brought cold water with lemon. "My name is Keisha," I said, handing her the menu. "I'll take care of you tonight." "What should I call you?" "Margaret," she replied with a shy smile. "Margaret Williams. And thank you for treating me like a normal person." "Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, Ms. Margaret," I replied sincerely. While she looked at the menu, I noticed other customers shooting disapproving glances in our direction. The jewelry lady was clearly bothered, gesturing to her husband and discreetly pointing at our table. Margaret ordered the grilled salmon with vegetables, $65, and a glass of white wine, $18. During dinner, we chatted a bit. She told me she had lived alone since her husband died 5 years ago. That she had a daughter who lived in Europe and that she rarely went out to dinner because she didn't feel welcome in most places. "You remind me of my daughter when she was young," Margaret said, smiling. "Determined and kind. You must be very proud of her," I replied, serving more water. "I am. She always told me to be strong and never let anyone diminish me because of my appearance." When it came time for the bill, that's when things got really bad. Margaret opened her old purse and began counting money slowly. They were crumpled bills, some $1, others $5. She counted once, twice, 3 times. Her face turned red with shame. "Dear," she said quietly, "it seems I didn't bring enough money. The bill came to $95 with service charge, and I only have 73. Richard appeared out of nowhere, as if he had been waiting for this moment. "I knew it," he exclaimed loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "I knew this would happen. Ma'am, this is embarrassing. How dare you come to an establishment of this level without being sure you can pay?" Other customers stopped eating to watch the drama. Some took out their phones. Margaret began to tremble, clearly humiliated. "I can wash dishes," she offered desperately. "Or clean tables. Anything to make up for it." Richard laughed cruelly. "Oh, how convenient. The classic solution of defaulters." "Very well, ma'am. Let's see how you do in the kitchen." "Richard, stop this," I protested. "She's a customer, not a criminal." "A customer who can't pay is a criminal," he retorted. "And you, Keisha, should have checked if she had money before serving her." Margaret stood up with difficulty, leaning on her cane. "It's okay, dear," she said to me. "I'll work to pay. I don't want to cause more problems." That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I pulled out my wallet and took out my last $47 in cash. It was all I had until the next payday on Friday. I combined it with Margaret's bills and put the $120 on the table. "The bill is paid," I announced. Richard was furious. "Keisha, you can't pay for customers. That goes against all company policies." "Then fire me," I replied, looking directly into his eyes. Margaret tried to protest. "Dear, don't do this. That money must be important to you." "Ms. Margaret," I said, holding her trembling hands, "my grandmother always taught me that when we help someone, God multiplies our blessing. That money will come back to me somehow." Tears streamed down her face. "You're an angel, Keisha. A real angel." Richard was red with rage. "Very well, Keisha. You want to play the hero? Then you can leave with her too." "You're fired! Get your things and get out of my restaurant now!" The entire restaurant fell silent. Some customers seemed shocked by Richard's cruelty. Others just continued eating as if nothing had happened. I knew I had lost my job, knew I didn't have money to pay rent, knew I would have to explain to my children why Mommy came home early. But looking at Margaret, seeing the gratitude in her eyes, I knew I had done the right thing. "Come, Ms. Margaret," I said, offering my arm. "Let's leave this place." As we walked toward the exit, Margaret stopped and looked back. For a second, I saw something different in her eyes. It was no longer the humiliated and fragile lady. It was something stronger, more determined. "Keisha," she said quietly, "can I ask you a question?" "Of course, ma'am." "Do you have a business card or some way to contact you? I would very much like to repay you somehow." I wrote my number on a napkin. "But please, don't worry about that. I just hope you had a good meal, despite all this drama." Margaret carefully put the paper in her purse. "Oh dear, you have no idea what a gift you just gave me." At the time, I thought she was talking about dinner. I had no idea that actually, I had just given her something much more valuable. Proof that there are still good people in the world. 2 weeks passed since that terrible night. 2 weeks without a job, living off the last $340 I had in my savings account. I tried to get work at other restaurants, but Miami Beach is a small circle. And Richard had spread to his contacts that I was problematic and didn't respect company rules. Maya and Jaden didn't understand why Mommy was always home now. Why we had macaroni with tomato sauce for dinner almost every day. Why I cried in the bathroom when I thought they weren't watching. "Mommy, why don't you go to work?" Maya asked on Tuesday morning as I prepared her breakfast. Toast with butter because I didn't have money to buy cereal. Mommy is looking for a new job, sweetheart. I lied, trying to sound optimistic. Sometimes it takes a little while to find the right place. Jaden, always the smartest of the two, looked at me with those big, serious eyes. Is it because you helped the grandma at the restaurant? I heard you telling Aunt Carmen yesterday. My heart tightened. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that doing the right thing sometimes has difficult consequences? Yes, baby. Mommy helped a lady and her boss didn't like it. But helping is good, Maya said, confused. Yes, my love. And Mommy doesn't regret it. Sometimes doing the right thing is hard, but it's important anyway. That afternoon, while the children were napping, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello? May I speak with Keisha Johnson? The voice was female, elegant, with a slight accent I couldn't identify. This is me. Keisha, my name is Patricia Williams. I'm Margaret Williams' daughter. I believe you met my mother a few weeks ago at the Bella Vista restaurant. My heart raced. Yes, how is Miss Margaret? I hope she's well. Actually, that's what I'm calling about. Keisha, I need to tell you some things about my mother that you might not know. There was a long pause. I could hear Patricia breathing on the other end of the line. My mother isn't exactly who she appears to be. What do you mean? I asked, confused. Keisha, can you meet me today? There are things I need to explain to you in person. And there's something my mother wants to give you. An hour later, I was sitting in the lobby of the Four Seasons Hotel in Brickell, feeling completely out of place with my jeans and simple t-shirt. Patricia was a woman of about 35, blonde, elegant, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my rent for 3 months. Thank you for coming, she said, ordering 2 coffees. First, I want to thank you for what you did for my mother. In 30 years, I've never seen her so touched by someone's kindness. It was just what any decent person would do, I replied. Patricia smiled. Keisha, do you have any idea who Margaret Williams is? A lovely lady who was unjustly humiliated, I replied. Well, that too. But there's much more. Patricia took a tablet from her purse and showed me an article from the Miami Herald. The headline read, Billionaire heiress Margaret Williams donates $50 million to charities. The photo showed an elegant woman in a gala dress, surrounded by important people. It took me a few seconds to recognize it was Margaret. The same Margaret I had served, but with styled hair, professional makeup, and jewelry that sparkled like stars. This is Ms. Margaret? I stammered. My mother inherited my father's fortune when he died 5 years ago. Williams Real Estate Development. You might have seen the buildings around the city. Practically half of Brickell was built by his company. My mind was spinning. But she was at the restaurant alone, in simple clothes. After my father died, Mom became disillusioned with the world of the rich. She discovered that people were only nice to her because of the money. So she started going out in disguise, wearing simple clothes to see how people would treat her if they thought she had nothing. Like a test? I asked, still in shock. Exactly. She's been mistreated in stores, restaurants, banks. Most people fail the test. But you, Keisha. Patricia smiled with tears in her eyes. You didn't just pass the test. You sacrificed your own resources to protect her dignity. I was processing all this when Patricia continued. There's more. My mother investigated your life after that night. She learned that you were fired, that you're struggling financially, that you study nursing while raising 2 children alone. She investigated? I didn't know whether to be offended or worried. Keisha, my mother wants to offer you something. But first, I need you to know it's not charity. It's recognition. Recognition for showing her that there are still genuinely good people in the world. Patricia slid a thick envelope across the table. What is this? Open it. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside was a check and a handwritten letter. I looked at the check amount and almost fainted $100,000. This can't be real, I murmured. It's completely real. But there's more. Read the letter. With a trembling voice, I read aloud. Dear Keisha, that night at the restaurant, I wasn't just testing your kindness. I was losing faith in humanity. For 5 years, since becoming one of Miami's wealthiest women, I discovered how false and self-interested people can be. You gave me back something I thought I had lost forever. The belief that there are people who do good without expecting anything in return. The money is just the beginning. I want to offer you a complete scholarship to finish your nursing degree at the best university in Miami. I want to create an education fund for Maya and Jaden. And I want to offer you a job as director of my new project. I'm creating a foundation to help single mothers who study and work at the same time. You would be perfect to run this organization. The starting salary would be $120,000 per year, with full benefits. But more important than all of this, I want you to know that you saved more than my dignity that night. You saved my faith in people. With love and eternal gratitude, Margaret Williams. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't speak. Keisha? Patricia touched my hand. Are you okay? I can't accept all this, I finally managed to say. It's too much. My mother predicted you would say that. That's why she asked me to tell you something specific. Patricia leaned forward and held both my hands. She said, "Tell Keisha that when we help someone, God multiplies our blessing." Those were her words to me that night. Now it's time for her to receive the multiplication she deserves. 3 months later, my life had completely changed. The one-bedroom apartment in Hialeah was replaced by a 3-bedroom house in Coral Gables, near an excellent school for Maya and Jaden. I was driving my own car for the first time, a used but reliable Honda Accord, and wearing clothes that made me feel professional and respected. But the biggest change wasn't material. It was the feeling of purpose. The Williams Foundation for Working Mothers was operating in a beautiful building in Coconut Grove. In 3 months, we had already helped 47 women with scholarships, free daycare for their children, and professional training programs. Margaret became more than a benefactor. She became the grandmother Maya and Jaden never had. Every Sunday we had dinner at her house in Key Biscayne, a waterfront mansion that took my breath away every time I arrived there. "Keisha," Margaret said one Sunday, while the children played in the pool, "have you ever wondered why I chose you?" "Every day," I replied honestly. "I still can't believe all this." "It wasn't just your kindness that night," she explained. "It was how you maintained your dignity even when you lost your job. How you didn't treat me like a poor thing, but as a person who deserved respect." "That's rare, dear. Very rare." I paused for a moment before asking the question that had been bothering me for months. "Margaret, have you ever been back to Bella Vista?" She smiled mysteriously. "Funny you ask. Actually, I went there last week." "Really? How was it?" "Very different from the first time. I wore one of my gala dresses, jewelry, driver, the complete package. Richard almost kneeled to receive me. And then? I told him exactly who I was. I told him about that night 4 months ago, about how he treated you and me. His face turned white as paper. "What did you do?" Margaret took a sip of iced tea before answering. "I bought the restaurant. I almost spit out my drink." "You did what?" "Bella Vista is now part of my investment portfolio. And guess who the new general manager is?" My heart raced. "No, Carmen Rodriguez. She worked as assistant manager there for 8 years, always fair with employees. Richard was fired the same day. And what happened to him? Last I heard, he was working as a used car salesman in Homestead. Karma, as you young people say." We both laughed, but there was something more in Margaret's expression. "Actually, Keisha, there's something else I want to tell you." "What? Remember I said I was losing faith in people?" "Well, it wasn't just because of how they treated me. It was because of Patricia. I was confused." "Your daughter?" "But she's lovely, and she is now. But until I met you, Patricia only called me when she needed money. She had been living in Europe for 10 years, financed by me, but rarely came to visit me. Our relationship was purely financial. And what changed? When I told her about you, about what you did, something awakened in her. She said she was ashamed to see a stranger treat her mother better than her own daughter." Margaret looked at Maya and Jaden, who were trying to teach pool tricks to one of her dogs. "Do you know why Patricia came back from the United States to be close to me? Because of you. You gave me back my daughter, Keisha. There's no money in the world that can pay for that." Tears streamed down my face again. It seemed like I couldn't stop crying since my life had changed. Margaret, I just did what any mother would want someone to do for her. Exactly. And that's why you deserve everything you have now. The following year, the Williams Foundation grew beyond our most optimistic expectations. We had offices in Orlando, Tampa, and Jacksonville. More than 300 women had already benefited from our programs. But the project I was most proud of was the Keisha program. Margaret insisted on the name despite my protests. It was a fund that paid employees of restaurants, hotels, and commercial establishments who were caught treating all customers with dignity, regardless of their appearance or social status. It's like the test you used to do, I explained to Margaret during a board meeting, but in reverse. Instead of punishing those who fail, we reward those who pass. Brilliant, said Patricia, who was now our financial director. Positive change through positive reinforcement. In December of that year, we organized our first charity gala. The event raised $2.3 million to expand our programs. Maya and Jaden, now 7 and 5 years old, were present, dressed elegantly and behaving like little foundation ambassadors. During my speech, I looked at the audience. 400 influential people from Miami who had paid $500 per plate to support our cause, and saw Margaret in the front row, radiant with pride. 18 months ago, I began. I was a single waitress trying to survive on minimum wage and tips. Today, I run an organization that has already changed hundreds of lives. The difference between those two moments wasn't luck or destiny. It was a choice. The audience was in absolute silence. The choice to treat an elderly person with dignity when everyone around me was humiliating her. The choice to spend my last $47 to preserve a stranger's dignity. The choice to do what was right, even knowing it could cost me my job. I paused to control my emotion. Margaret Williams taught me that kindness is not weakness, it's courage. And today, through this foundation, we're proving that when we invest in kindness, it returns multiplied. The ovation lasted 5 minutes, but the most special moment was when Maya came up on stage with me. "My mommy always teaches me," she said into the microphone with the confidence of a child who grew up loved, "that we should be kind to everyone because we never know who might be an angel in disguise." The audience exploded in applause again. Margaret was crying with pride. After the event, Margaret called me for a private conversation in her office. "Keisha, there's something I want to give you." She opened a safe behind a painting and took out a sealed envelope. "What is this?" "My will." Well, a copy. My stomach nodded. "Margaret, why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to know that 60% of my fortune will go to the foundation when I die. Patricia will get 20% and you 20%. I can't accept this. Keisha, you saved my life. Not literally, but spiritually. When I met you, I was bitter, distrustful, losing faith in humanity. You showed me that the world still has hope." She held my hands like a mother would. "Besides, someone needs to take care of Patricia when I'm no longer here. She finally learned to be a real daughter, but still needs guidance. You became the sister she never had. Margaret, promise me you'll take care of her, and that you'll continue our work?" "I promise," I whispered. Today, 5 years after that, fateful night at Bella Vista, I wake up every morning grateful for having made the right decision. Maya is 12 years old and wants to be a doctor. Jaden, at 10, already shows talent for engineering. Both grew up understanding that privilege comes with responsibility. Margaret is 78 years old now, still active and still doing her occasional tests, although now she tells me about them. Last week she called me laughing. I went to the mall dressed simply to buy a gift for Maya. The saleswoman at an expensive clothing store ignored me for 20 minutes, pretending I didn't exist. When she finally served me, it was with a sour face and impatience. And then, I bought a $30 blouse and paid with a black credit card. The manager almost had a heart attack when she saw the name on the card. You didn't buy the store this time, did you? No, Margaret laughed. But I sent a letter to the owner, explaining how employees treat customers who appear to have less money. They changed the entire company's service policy. Patricia now lives 3 blocks away. She and I are really sisters, not by blood, but by choice. Our children, she had twins last year, grow up like cousins, united by the extraordinary story that brought us together. The Williams Foundation now operates in 12 states and has already benefited more than 5,000 families. I have a master's degree in administration that Margaret insisted on paying for, and I'm regularly invited to speak at universities about social entrepreneurship. But the most important lesson I learned has nothing to do with money or professional success. I learned that every person we meet is fighting a battle we don't know about. The lady in simple clothes might be a millionaire testing our humanity. The homeless person on the corner might be a war veteran with stories that would make us cry. The misbehaving child in the supermarket might be dealing with something terrible at home. Choosing kindness isn't always easy. Sometimes it's costly, like it cost me my job that night. But choosing cruelty or indifference costs much more. It costs our humanity. I could have ignored Margaret that night. I could have minded my own business, protected my job, avoided problems. Most people would do exactly that. But my grandmother always told me something I never forgot. Keisha, when you have the chance to choose between being right and being kind, choose to be kind. That night at Bella Vista, I chose to be kind. And that choice didn't just change my life, it saved 2 families, created a foundation that helps thousands of people, and proved that a small act of kindness can really change the world. If you made it this far in this story, I want to ask you a question. When was the last time you chose to be kind to someone who couldn't repay you? When was the last time you defended someone who was being mistreated? Because you never know. The next person you help might be an angel in disguise. Or maybe, just maybe, you're the angel someone is waiting to find. Kindness is contagious. Pass it forward.